Welcome back to the Abundant Harvest Homestead. I'm Papa Pepper. We just laid the smack down on some nice red-eared sunfish, also known as shell crackers, and some nice bluegills, also known as bream, although some people call them perch. I thought maybe we'd do a little fillet with me, where while I'm filleting these fish, we just have ourselves a bit of a conversation. That will be the premise of this video. If that's your thing, check it out. If that's not, feel free to, mosey on your merry way. But we did not expect or intentionally position ourselves to be near a lake when we moved down here. It just so happens that we are near a lake. If I had it all to do over again, I would definitely make sure that part of my plan was to be near a decent waterway. Decent lake, river, creek, whatever it may be, that would hold fish. Because fish are a huge resource, and there's a lot of them that are really good and edible, and a lot of different ways to prepare them. For us, we go with what's recorded in the pages of the Bible. So if it comes from the waters, we're going to make sure it has fins and scales. Here's some fins. They've also got scales. That limits what we're able to eat because shrimp, lobster, clams, oysters, octopus, crawfish, mussels, catfish, all sorts of stuff like that is not going to be available for us. But there are so many that still are. Like these panfish we got here, these bluegills and sunfish. And then plus it's offered us up the opportunity to kind of experiment. It's amazing that mankind is generally going to tell you, oh, catfish, that's awesome, or oh, shrimp, lobster. It's interesting too, lobster used to just be fed to prisoners back in the Northeast back in the day. But now it's kind of high table fare for a lot of folks. But they'll tell you all those things are amazing and good. And then they'll tell you things like carp and gar are trash fish. And so you know what? I don't know. It says here, fins and scales is food for us. I'm like, what happens if we start experimenting with that? So we have been. Now growing up, we'd catch bass and panfish, and that'd be predominantly what we would eat. We'd also catch northern pike back up in Wisconsin, but they were rather bony. The walleye would run in the spring. We'd do some good walleye fishing, and then I think I laid into the white bass sometimes. But also there were so many paper mills on the Wisconsin River that we didn't really eat fish out of the Wisconsin River. For the most part, we just kind of steered clear of that. So we'd go fishing there for carp, catfish, other things for fun, but we weren't eating them just because of the level of pollution that was in there. It was very common for us to have filleted fish periodically, which is what I'm doing to these ones here. Behind me in the background, monster truck's got 20 some. Hey, could you bring him all the other ones and set them up there for him? Can you do that, little girl? The ones over here. Grab these ones here and just bring them to his table for him. You will help? Thank you. Yeah, bring those to him. Those are for him. So monster truck's behind me with his lovely little assistant, Bell Pepper, and he's just gonna scale them, head them, and gut them. And then we're gonna deep fry them that way. And my mom always really liked taking the tails that were deep fried and nibbling those up. Those are definitely tasty. So the bigger ones, yep, you take those to him. The bigger ones I'm filleting, he's just heading and gutting them. But we would deep fry them quite a bit, sometimes pan fry them or even bake them. Right before I left Wisconsin, I finally got into some of the salmon that would run in from Lake Michigan, and that was awesome too. Baked some of that. I did whatever it is where you cure it with lemon juice. I did that. Had some smoked. That was awesome. Can you take them all to him?
She's gonna go get a spoon.
A spoon? Oh, yeah. You can do that, baby girl. And then moving down here, it gave me an opportunity to interact more with gar and things like that. There are gar available some places in Wisconsin. I never ran into them, but started catching or seeing gar, and then eventually started bow fishing them a little bit here and there. I don't have a boat, so we just go from shore wading. And then last year we actually learned how to catch them in rod and reel, and we are so waiting for that to start up again, because gar is one that I like deep fried, and then I also like boiled. Like if you boil it with some Zatarans, like the seasoning you would use for like crawfish or something like that. Those are very, very tasty, so I can't wait for that. But it was interesting, and I think potentially the reason a lot of people go for gar balls, my hypothesis right now is maybe that they let the gar sit out really long. Eventually, gar, kind of like big head carp, will kind of break down, deteriorate, turn to mush. So, I don't know if people are mixing up all sorts of stuff and making gar balls. Maybe that's because their gar turned to mush, but if you have them right away, I find the meat to be very kind of rubbery, chewy. Kind of like if you're familiar with the consistency of like a shrimp, something like that. So it lends itself well to being deep fried because it's got like a chicken tender type consistency, something to sink your teeth into rather than being flaky like a lot of the fish are, like your bass, like your panfish, your walleye, where they're kind of white and flaky. The gar don't do it. It's rubbery, it's chewy. And if I was looking for a shrimp substitute, I bet you I could prepare it very much like a shrimp and have it be a good substitute. I don't really miss the stuff we gave up to switch over our diet. And we rather enjoy some of the things that we found since we did. And then also, with gar being so rubbery, like this fish, if I boiled it, it'd get cooked, but then it'd all fall apart. With the gar, if you boil it, it's very, again, like a shrimp-like kind of rubbery consistency, that it's rather good. It holds its shape and its firmness, and it lends itself to being cooked in that spicy boil mix really well. I'm gonna do some big old gar boils this year. But a cool thing with that gar stuff is that I just experimented with it. I didn't know how to clean them. I didn't really look anything up. I just figured it out. I'm gonna turn the camera for just a second for you guys. See? See, those are gar right there hanging there. And I went in through their backs. I filled those with great stuff to kind of do some poor man's taxidermy. But I didn't really know how to do it. I just went in there and got the meat out. It worked. You got two big boneless back straps, really, which is 2/3 of the fish, and then the other third of the fish is the ribs and inside, which is all the entrails, the guts, which is very interesting that you get two big old boneless back straps, and yet people will say, oh, gar ain't no good, it's too bony. If you're getting into the bones, at least with the long nose gar, the kind we got here, wow, you got an issue, because you're just cutting into the ribs. The way I saw it, there really ain't no bones in them where the meat is. So I thought it was amazing. So we just started taking God at face value, and he says fins and scales is food. We'll roll with that, and sure enough, we've been incredibly blessed. And for some time now, I've been saying that gar is my #1 target species for food. And I realized, I think it was yesterday, that gar is actually going to be my favorite fish too. It is actually my favorite fish. Now we got 5 types of gar in the United States. You've got the Florida gar, which is the only species not available in the wild here where I live in the Ozarks. But in Arkansas here, we do have the long nose, we do have the short nose, we do have the spotted, and we do have the alligator. Now, spotted gar, alligator gar, And short-nosed gar I've not yet encountered. We catch a lot of long-nosed gar. They're readily available at the lake, and then also some of the bigger different creeks and rivers they're in. And it seems that that's the species that doesn't mind a clear water stream, a cold clear water stream. Some gar definitely like brackish water, definitely like muddy water, stuff that's more, I don't know, almost swampy looking, but a nice cold clear stream or creek. The long-nosed gar, like the ones I showed you, they'll actually be in there. So that's pretty cool. I'm hoping to get into spear fishing them this year. And boy, when I was just looking at these, I tried bow fishing some carp. I did shoot one in the head, but my arrow landed right in its big old hard head, and it kind of stuck in there for a minute, and then not even a minute, but then it kind of shook it free and took off. But I was thinking, if I was just laying in there with my wetsuit on, and maybe like with a ghillie suit over my wetsuit, kind of extreme ambush predator type spear fishing, but I could have a lot of fun with my spear gun. So we'll see. Yeah, there's just a couple left. What is that? Another dozen over there. She's still got 12 more for you, son.
I got like 8 over here.
That are done or still left?
That are still left.
Oh, cool. You got a good stack of ones that are done. I'll show you what he's up to by the time this video is over, by the time he's done. He knows how to fillet them too. But right now, we just laid into the suckers like crazy. And there's a type of sucker called a quillback. We shot some of those too. And they're pretty much, I'm calling them done for the year. But the carp are just about to spawn. I think we've only shot a dozen of them so far. I went out with 2 of my girls. We blasted 10. And then I went out with a buddy of mine last night, and we shot 2 together. We saw one, we both shot at it, we both missed. Saw the second one, both shot it at the same time, kind of fire on 3, you know, we both missed. Saw the third one, he missed, I hit it, and then the fourth one, we both stuck, which was cool. Well, we're not gonna run into too much out this way if there's nothing. Oh, carp! Carp? Big carp.
Oh, wow.
You want in on him?
Yeah, you go around this way.
Okay. Nice and gentle, nice and quiet. You count the 3.
1, 2, 3.
Look at that. Dude, it's got 2 arrows in it. Hey, do the pickup with me here. Oh, dude, it's got 2 arrows in it. Okay, that is awesome. That's not the first time I've shot somebody's first fish bow fishing with them. I did that with Pinky Pepper, and then I got a good brother who I enjoy doing stuff with, and I think we doubled down on his too. Yeah, we did. We hit that at the same time. So that's 3 people now whose first carp they ever shot bow fishing, I shot with them, which is cool. We like the backup arrow because why let the fish swim away if you miss? If you got 2 arrows, twice as many arrows flying at it, you got twice the opportunity. You're twice as likely to hit it. So the carp then too, that's one where around the world, and I'll put a card where I'll link a video from Mr. Zach over at an American homestead. I took him out bow fishing for carp the other year, and I had a lot of the information about them right at the tip of my tongue at the time. So it's definitely a good educational video to learn about them. But the common carp not only has fins and scales, it's native to Europe and Asia. It is a naturalized non-native species, so it's not considered invasive like the Asian carp, which would be your big head, your grass carp, and your silver carp. Silver carp are the big ones causing issues across the United States right now, but they're not considered invasive because the common carp has been here long enough that it's naturalized. It kind of carved out its own niche in the ecosystem, and it's a huge sport fish and food fish around the world, but by and large here in the United States people call it a trash fish. You can find them so many times just thrown on the shore. And same thing with the gar, which is a native species. I really wish people wouldn't just take a fish, catch a fish, kill a fish. I don't like it. because I like eating them. But with the suckers and then the carp, we began pickling them, which is one way to eat them, and that's absolutely amazing. Tastes kind of like pickled herring. We began canning them, which when you pressure can them, all the little Y bones, which is why people generally don't like them, they disintegrate. Same thing with pickling, but it's a great salmon and tuna substitute, and we just love it. We had some 2 days ago. Yesterday. Wow. I had some yesterday for lunch. It was like a tuna salad substitute, but with sucker or carp, I forget which one. But it was amazing. It was so tasty. You got it done. Thank you, girl. And I think this year I've put up maybe almost 100 pint jars of pickled sucker, and about to start in with the carp now that the suckers are done. I'm just doing a talk where I'm cleaning right now, my lady. But I went out quite a few nights. One night we had over 100 fish. Another night we had over 50 fish, bow fishing the suckers. And the reason we hit it so hard is because you really got maybe a week or two that is good and quick and easy and available, and then boom, they're gone. And that's a little rough. And I try to get a year's supply now of canned fish every year. I only started bow fishing a couple of years back because somebody had given me a bow. And I saw somebody bow fishing the carp down the river, or down at the lake. And I thought, hey, I got a bow, I ought to jump on that. So I jumped on it. It's so much fun. When I was fishing with Red Pepper earlier, she was catching some of these. And she's like, this is a really fun way to, you know, get food for the family. I said, yeah, it is. And she goes, so is bow fishing. I said, yeah, that is. And it really, really is. I absolutely love having that much fun, especially when we can do it as a family, and come home and have dinner, you know, or with the bowfish and the suckers and carp, you know, put up a year's supply of canned fish, or better, which is awesome. We even let some different people, you know, introduce them to it and try it for the first time. And so far we've only heard good things, really, actually. And same thing with the gar. We've had people who their whole life always thought that was bad because that's what they were told, and they took it all as secondhand information. It scared them off. They never tried it themselves. But I don't mind educating people, letting them know, hey, they're good. So at the moment, I'm thinking I'm going to build a smoker here soon. I was at a friend's house. He had a hot cold smoker, so it was dual purpose, and I'm not sure if I'm going to try to finish my mini barn first and then work on that project, or if we'll just knock that one out, then go back to the mini barn and then work on our outdoor kitchen and root cellar. There's quite a few pieces that need to come together for my root cellar. Right now I've kind of got the time and I've got the weather and I've got some of the resources and probably some help too if I need it, but I gotta wait for the finances to get where they are, and then sometimes the finances get where they are and I don't have the time, or then it's bad weather, so that's been far too long of a project in the works. But because it took me so long to get as far as I have, it's going to take me a long time to complete, you know, from when I started some years back, but it's also going to be a lot better than if I just went with my original plan. So I'm looking forward to that. But I want to hot smoke like crazy. I want to take my sheep, hot smoke them, my deer, hot smoke them, my fish, hot smoke them, chickens. We did a turkey is what we did. A friend said, hey, actually my wife reached out to them and was like, we should get together sometime soon. And they were like, yeah, actually we just picked up a brisket and we were thinking of having you guys over. And we're like, wow, really? So they were throwing some chicken on for lunch and a brisket for dinner, and they were going to spend all day with the hot smoker going. Well, we decided to take our big old papa turkey. We still got to take care of the female mama lady, and we butchered him up, and that was a deal. He was a big bird. I should have weighed him just for the sake of it, but he was a big bird, and I kind of eventually hung him upside down, like on his back on a table, laid him down, and kind of peeled all the skin and feathers and stuff off. and then wound up quartering him. So we had 2 massive breasts with the wings attached. We had 2 decent sized thighs with some big drumsticks hanging off of it, and we hot smoked that thing, and that thing was so good. We had borrowed a vehicle from one of our friends for something we were up to, and we gave them one of the drumsticks and thighs as an appreciation for letting us borrow their vehicle. The guy whose smoker we used, we left one at his place. You know, I mean, they fed us chicken and then they fed us brisket, and we said, well, here you go, you can have this. He says, oh man, no, that's okay. I said, I know it's okay, but it's also okay if you guys have it, you know. So I kind of gave him a smoker tax for using his smoker and for being inspired. I really like that smoker. And then we brought the 2 thighs and the 2 wings, and we had those, and we got a couple meals out of them. We even brought 1 thigh we just chopped up, sliced up, and brought it to a potluck. And that lasted quite a while at that gathering, but so good. Such a tasty way to have it. And with that one too, I took it in a big old pot and I kind of stabbed through it a bunch of different ways. And then I put some water, lime juice, garlic powder, and some other stuff, and just kind of made my own marinade. And then we smoked it. I think mostly we used white oak with a bit of hickory for the smoker, but I'm actually, where I showed you guys to my side here, that's my wood shed. It's about halfway full for this next year. I've been filling it just the other day. Took some time and effort to get about halfway full. And I want to get prepared for winter. I had various wood sitting out, but I want it to be as dry as it can, and even the stuff that's been down for a while, if it sits out in the rain, you know, it's not drying or staying dry the same way it would, being protected. But I'm sorting through the hickory and saving that, because when I build my smoker, I was thinking of incorporating it into my outdoor kitchen build. But that's when I was thinking of just a cold smoker. And it's kind of like where some people in certain areas are not allowed to have a wood stove in their house. We have a wood stove in our house here, but some places they just need the outdoor wood burning furnace, and then they can blow the hot air in from there, but they're not really allowed to have that fire in their house. The cold smoker, you got your firebox off to the side, and then your smoke is just running into there. So I was thinking of doing it that way, but when I saw the dual purpose hot cold smoker, and even when I showed up, I didn't see the box on the side, and he had a fire going in it. I'm like, whoa, he just built a wooden hot smoker. I'm like, this is really cool. But then I saw the firebox on the outside and the pipe running for the cold smoke, and I'm like, oh man, it's dual purpose. And now that I want to incorporate that hot smoker with my cold smoker, you know, do a 2-in-1, I don't exactly want to attach it to my outdoor kitchen anymore. I want it somewhat near there, so we can set things up, because we'll do a lot of this stuff will be done in my outdoor kitchen in the near future. I won't just be standing out between my house and woodshed doing it. But I've done a lot of this lately. A lot of it's done at night though. The other night we shot 101 of those suckers, and a friend of mine came back with me, and I think we got back at like 1 in the morning. Well, we were out here till 4:40 in the morning filleting the fish. And then I gave him about half, I kept about half. And I stayed up till 6 something, and I guess he stayed up till maybe like 8 something. I've been doing a lot of this for the past couple of years. He really used to do a lot of fishing and stuff like that, but it had been some time, so I'll say maybe he was a little out of practice. But he rinsed them all off, cutting them all up into pieces, and then getting them ready for canning. But although I want to have a lot of this go down at the outdoor kitchen and have kind of everything go close, I don't want that smoker attached to it anymore if I'm actually going to have an open fire in there. I won't put a lot of resources in to the project, because I get my lumber cheap at the sawmill, and I'll just use some screws, and then I repurpose a bunch of barn tin I took down from some places I was kind of able to scavenge, if you will. So I won't have much in it, and if it burns up one day, you know, so be it. But if it's attached to my outdoor kitchen on top of my root cellar, boy, that's a nice fish. You guys seeing that? That is a beautiful red-eared sunfish. They'll eat the mollusks, so they'll call them shell crackers. They'll gobble up little snails or things like that and crush them and eat them. But I don't want that to happen to catch fire one day if it's attached to everything. So I'm thinking maybe where I got my little rock smoker right now, I might build that thing. But depending on how my work goes and how often I leave for jobs, I wouldn't be surprised if I even had a functioning smoker in another week if I actually went hard on it. It'd only take me like a day to probably actually do most of it if I had the resources on hand. And most of them are here. So we'll see. I even saved those 2 carp we shot last night. I saved their big fillets. Some folks we know showed us a trick where if you freeze the whole thing in salt water, then when you thaw it out, because it was encased in water and salt, it's really fresh as opposed to just a big old section of fillets in a freezer bag and then put that in the freezer. Eventually that'll get freezer burned. So of course you want it fresh and like the day you started it. You just want to use the freezer to preserve it for a bit, to keep it edible for you for a long period of time. Did you get them all done?
No.
Not yet? Okay.
One more time.
Well, with the year coming on here, I hope to hit some bow fishing for those carp here soon. When it really gets hitting, I want to just lay into them and put up as many as I can, because I can only do that when I'm free to go to the lake. If I'm traveling for work, I'm not going to be at the lake. If other things are going on, I'm not going to be there. And although carp can spawn up to 4 times in a year, if the water temps are right, the spring spawn is kind of the big one. It's the big, awesome opportunity to get a bunch of food. And this year, you know, we're not gardening. We're letting our land have a Sabbath year of rest. So if I can take a whole bunch of extra pint jars and fill that with canned fish, because we live so close to the lake and I know how to do it, then I can make more than a year's supply and I can have extra. And then as I interact with other people who maybe can their own tomatoes or make their own pickles or their own salsas or things like that, but then we would be able to trade maybe some of our canned fish, the pint jars full of that, with whatever they got. It'll give us kind of some other food to eat, and then give them something they're not exactly making their own. You know, most people don't really grow these in their garden, although they make a wonderful fish emulsion, which I would be making with some of them if we were gardening this year. I've got a good video. I'll put a card up there about 4 different easy do-it-yourself garden fertilizers, liquid garden fertilizers you can make yourself on your own property. They're things like rabbit manure, tea, comfrey tea, stinging nettle tea, and then fish emulsion. But those do absolutely wonderful. And I got a friend, I might try the experiment next year myself. He actually did an experiment last year where he had some of the snake gourds growing, which are one of our top 3 garden plants, and we love them. He had some snake gourds growing on a bent over cattle panel. So you got half the cattle panel over here arching over to the other side, and he had some planted over here, some planted over here. And he put rabbit manure on one side, and he left the other side with no rabbit manure on it. And the results were amazing. Like, of course, he can research and find that it's better, and maybe some different experiments about stuff, but to see it himself on his own property with his own plants, and to watch before his eyes how, I think in less than a week, there were visible differences that he could notice and be like, wow. He really appreciated that. So, being a hands-on learner, I wouldn't mind doing that experiment myself and seeing how that works here. Well, that's one thing too, even with cleaning these fish. We're just taking the fillets off of them. Now I could take the guts out, the entrails, and take the skeletons and the heads and make some nice fish stock, and I want to do some of that later this year too. Maybe get some quart jars of that just done up for later in the year. A lot of good nutrition in there, even if it doesn't look very palatable or pleasing to the eyes. There's still a lot of good nutrition in there. But even without making a fish stock ourselves, we like using this stuff. We'll give them to our chickens and guineas, our poultry like that, and they will peck every last thing clean off of there that they can. So if I'm not making fish emulsion with them, I'll give them to the poultry, and you know, we kind of feed them off behind our poultry little houses in their pens, because you're going to attract flies, which is cool to watch the little chicks and the little ducks especially. They love gobbling up flies, so that provides some other food for them. And actually, if the flies do lay the next generation on the carcasses too, the poultry loves that. They will gladly gobble up a whole bunch of maggots. They'll turn them into eggs for us. It's amazing. But yeah, they'll peck them clean, and then a lot of times after that, I'll bury the carcasses in the garden anyway, whatever's left. We wind up with a lot of them. But we try to view everything as a resource. I mean, if I'm catching these fish with worms from my property, and I just did a video on kind of a 4-year-old bugger, he's sitting over there now, but he was providing for his family. I was showing how rich our soil was around here because of just the fact that we're enriching it, we're making it more fertile ground, and there's so many night crawlers and worms. And then we grab those, take those down to the lake, exchange those with the lake for fish. And then when we get home, we've got a great pile of food. And then if I take these and feed them to my animals, like my poultry, then I'm reducing the poultry feed bill. And they're getting some real nice fresh protein, some good stuff for laying their eggs, and then I don't need to buy as much feed, and then I'll take the leftovers from that, use it in the garden. It'll come back and provide even more food for us. So, you know, I can grab a worm out of my property, go down to the lake, I can get a fish for that. We can eat the fish. We can give the poultry what's left of that fish, and they'll give us eggs. Then we'll take whatever they don't eat, I'll put it in the garden, and they'll give us like tomatoes or peppers. So I just love that mentality of nothing being wasted, of everything being a resource, of kind of recycling it all, and then, you know, I think living a life that makes the most sense. It is not a goal of mine, you know, a specific goal where I'm going to live as green as I possibly can. But because of the way I live, are you caught up?
Yep.
How many do I got? 3? You want another one? Whew. That's a nice setup too, son. I'll show that in a minute. I got 2 left here. I'm not trying to live a super green life. It's just when I live a life that's connected to the real world, meaning not the concrete jungle, but the soil and the trees and the air and the streams and the lake, the real world, my life becomes greener, you know, less of a carbon footprint, less of those type things. Not my goal, but by living a life that makes sense, I wind up with those things. So for me to save my own pepper seed, which happens, and then start it, germinate it, walk it out to the garden, put that little seedling in my garden and let it grow, add some stuff like this, you know, to it, let it grow really good, and then, oh, we're making a meal. Let's go take a stroll up to my garden. A little bit of a stroll right now. We may move our annual garden closer to the house eventually as we age in place. I have a perennial garden that's a little walk up the thing where there's less investment needed of time and effort and energy, but then have our little, you know, annual garden of whatever we're growing a little closer. But walk up there, go grab a pepper, and walk back to the kitchen. You know, rinse it off, cut it up, and put it in my meal. That's not a lot that needs to be involved. Now imagine if that seed is harvested and then sorted and packaged, and then it's shipped to a store, and then I got to go to the store after I did something, you know, to earn the money to buy it off the shelf, have the checkout person who drove their vehicle to the store, you know, sell it to me, and then I'll drive back home with my little packet of seeds, and then I'll you know, start growing it. That's a lot more effort. Or if I head to the store and go to the produce section and grab one of their packaged peppers. So you got your little styrofoam, you know, how much went into making a little styrofoam tray, how much went into making the stretch film that's wrapped around it, you know, to make the sticker, how much went into that, the ink, the printing on the sticker, that got then shipped, you know, to the place. There's a lot more involved, a lot more energy, fuel, stuff involved with getting a pepper that way. It's not my goal to avoid that. Well, to a certain degree it is, for sure. But the reason I want to avoid that is not just to be green. It's just to live a life that makes sense and to kind of not need as much money as I would otherwise. Looks like he's pretty good over there. I'll show you what I got. So these will be breaded and deep fried. Panfish stuff. My buddy was looking last year. I think bluegill fillets for a pound of them. You can order online for like 40 bucks. So that's not too bad. Let's see what Monster Truck did. What you got, son? Man. He got all these. This guy got scaled on still? No. He's good. So he scaled them and removed the guts. So we'll just deep fry these, and then when we do, we can nibble on this tail. That'll crisp off, and then the meat peels off the bones really nice and easily. I want you to rinse these off really good, and then put them in that other bowl you got over there, okay?
Sir.
Not sure if you guys did or not, but I thought you might like hanging out with me while I fillet some fish. There's definitely a lot of time in my life that I spend filleting fish. I thought it might be a good opportunity to kind of do a conversation with y'all. And you know, this is kind of the introductory one if I continue on with some more of these. So talked quite a bit about the different parts of our fishing and living by the lake and things like that. In the future I may hit some other topics, but either way, what's your favorite fish to eat? You guys eat fish? What's your favorite fish? What's your favorite fish to catch? Mine? Gar. Favorite fish to eat, favorite fish to catch. Oh, thank you, daughter. These guys were hanging out listening too. Darling, what's your favorite fish to catch?
What's that one called that's like the fish basket style fish? I forget their name, it's like every time.
Walleye?
No.
Fish basket style?
Yeah, it's the very nice, tasty fish.
The drum?
Yes.
Freshwater
I
drum?
really like those.
She likes eating freshwater drum. She's caught sturgeon before. You should have seen this lady. But let us know what fish you guys like. What do you like to eat? What do you like to catch? Does this look tasty? And let me know if you'd like to see videos like this in the future. Or maybe I fillet something else. And I could do a more in-depth look at my cleaning fish too. You know, actually show you a little bit of what I'm doing early on in the video maybe. That way you guys know if you get one of these how to do it. We'll see you next time. Papa out. Monster Truck.
Monster Truck out.